Manhunt continues this morning for the person who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The FBI just released pictures of the suspect.
Lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Polish and NATO forces intercepting and shooting down multiple drones that crossed into Polish territory this morning. It is a dangerous escalation that threatens to expand the war beyond Ukraine's border.
In this video, we're going to look at 3 stories that show just how fragile things have become. Russian drones crossed into NATO territory, putting Poland and all of NATO on high alert. American farmers are staring at bankruptcy en masse as they feel the impact of China's canceled orders. And here at home, violence continues to spill into our schools, our politics, and our streets at an increasing rate. Now, I hate to say this out loud, but where is this all heading in our country with the recent assassination this week of yet another public figure? I do have concerns, to be honest, which we'll discuss. We'll tackle these issues in this video and tell you how to best prepare for what is inevitably coming. We'll also announce the details of this week's giveaway, so you're going to want to stick around to the end. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Now, before I delve into these particular discussions that we're going to go over today, these hot topics, I want to tell you about my free learning opportunity that I'm going to be presenting to you, the community, because you don't have to be fearful when you can be productive with your preparedness. Now, I know some of the things that we're going to be covering in the news today are pretty heavy, and it sometimes feels like we're sliding uncontrollably towards an abrupt and much more worse end. Perhaps you feel the same way, but I do have a solution for you. On Monday, September the 15th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be hosting a free live event called 3 Critical Survival Steps That Every Family Needs Right Now. In this workshop, I'm going to walk you through how to identify the real risks that your family is most likely to face, how to build a simple and affordable 72-hour base of food, water, and essentials, and how to stretch that foundation into 3 weeks of readiness. That's a level that turns panic into resilience and gives you real peace of mind when shelves go bare, power goes out, or jobs are disrupted. And this is important because instability is no longer the exception. It's becoming the norm. Wars overseas, grid failures, political violence, inflation, and disasters are hitting closer and closer to home. And families who prepare now are the ones who get through without fear of chaos. So please take a moment to sign up. It's free, it's live, and it could change the way you approach preparedness. So click on the link below or visit cityprepping.com/workshop to reserve and grab your seat. Join us all live and let's take the first real steps together. I'll link to it in the comments and description section below. I'll see you there. Border violations. On the nights of September 9th and 10th, Poland faced its most serious border violation since joining NATO. Between 19 and 23 Russian drones, many of them kamikaze drones, crossed into Polish airspace from the east, with some reportedly launched out of Belarus. Now, Polish air defenses backed by NATO allies, including the Netherlands, scrambled to intercept. And several drones were shot down, others crashed in Poland, and airports were forced to close. Emergency alerts went out, and eastern Poland went into full air defense lockdown. From a military standpoint, the tactic is clear. By sending drones southwest out of Belarus and across Poland, Russia hopes to flank air defenses that are primarily oriented northeast. Now, these were not accidental flight paths. While the intent may not be to trigger direct war with NATO, that exact outcome has to be anticipated. And this was not the first incident. Just days earlier, 2 Russian drones have crashed inside of Poland, followed by another pair on September the 8th, and each time Poland responded more aggressively. But this overnight barrage was different. On September the 10th, Warsaw invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, calling emergency consultations with the alliance. Article 4 is not the mutual defense clause that compels NATO into war. It's the final step before it. Now, it signals a member state believes its sovereignty and security are directly threatened. And Poland is not the only nation on edge. In July, Lithuania faced similar Russian-made drone incursions, one carrying explosives that crashed near a training ground. Lithuania responded with a 90-kilometer no-fly zone along its Belarus border and overhauled its air defense protocols. And these hybrid threats of drones, propaganda, and cyber attacks, they're all Russia's way of probing NATO without officially declaring war. For Poland, the situation feels different. The country has now deployed 40,000 troops to its eastern border while Russia holds military drills just across the line. The optics are chillingly familiar. In 2022, when Russian troops amassed near Ukraine under the label of drills, leaders dismissed concerns. And within hours, tanks were rolling across the border. And if NATO directly engages, there's also the possibility that the United States honors its Article 5 commitments. I use the word possibility because history tells us not to assume. In 1994, the Budapest Memorandum gave Ukraine U.S. assurances of protection in exchange for giving up its nuclear weapons. And when Russia invaded, those assurances, they proved hollow. NATO and Russia alike may be counting on the United States to avoid taking meaningful action regardless of how far this escalates. Now, Eastern Europe refuses to be caught off guard again. Many observers note that NATO does not want war. And at the same time, Moscow benefits from creating just enough instability to sell its narrative at home that Russia is under siege by the West, in the self-justified militarization and sacrifice from its citizens. Others warn that these incursions, they may be small bite tests, probing whether NATO would respond militarily if a member's territory is repeatedly violated. Now, what makes this moment historic is that NATO jets were mobilized to directly neutralize a Russian threat inside alliance territory. Poland, backed by allies, shot down hostile drones launched by Russia. That is no longer spillover from Ukraine. It is a direct engagement on NATO soil. And if one of those NATO jets had been downed by a drone or other means, the world would probably already be talking about Article 5 and the start of a wider war. Anytime militaries are operating across borders in close proximity, the risk of rapid escalation multiplies. So what does this mean to us? For preppers, this is not just about military maneuvers in Eastern Europe. It's about the ripple effects. When a NATO member is forced into high alert, global security, economics, and supply chains are all tightened. Wars in one part of the world, they drive up energy costs, food prices, and shipping delays everywhere. Just as the tariffs, pandemics, and cyber attacks disrupt store shelves, armed conflict along the arteries of trade sends shockwaves to the daily life. The takeaway is clear. Crises escalate quickly, and what begins as drills or limited incursions, they can shift overnight into emergencies that force entire populations to shelter, mobilize, or fight. Polish civilians, they went from a normal evening to air raid alerts in just minutes. And the same kind of sudden disruption could happen here at home in the form of a cyber attack or natural disaster. Preparedness is about not being surprised when the unexpected becomes reality. If conflict in Europe expands, expect higher fuel prices, tighter grain markets, and a wave of instability that is even more volatile than what we've seen in recent years. That is why 3 months of food, water, and essentials is no longer optional. It is a margin of peace of mind every family should have. Borders, they're fragile. Governments are reactive. Ordinary people, they pay the highest price. And prepping is about regaining some control back into your own hands. Farming collapse. The trade war between the United States and China has reached a new and dangerous phase, and American farmers and consumers are caught in the crossfire. After the United States administration imposed sweeping tariffs on more than 90 countries, China has retaliated by canceling massive agricultural orders from the United States and shifting its purchases elsewhere. We warned about the ramifications of this in some of our videos back then when it happened. Today, China buys soybeans, alfalfa hay, cotton, and other staples now from Brazil, Ukraine, Australia, Argentina, Canada, Russia, France, and New Zealand, all replacing U.S. producers. American farmers are now entering harvest season with crops already in the ground and no ready buyers. Farming decisions are locked in months in advance, and there's no way to pivot midway through a season. Producers now face a reality of selling their harvest at a loss or not selling at all. In some cases, crops will be left to rot in the field or plowed under simply to clear the land for the next planting cycle. This crisis is national in scope and not confined to a single region or crop. In the Midwest, soybean-heavy states such as Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota are particularly exposed. In the plains, sorghum sales have collapsed by nearly 95% compared to last year. The western states, especially California, Nevada, and Arizona, have seen alfalfa hay exports dry up. California is also suffering with almonds, wine, grapes, and other tree crops, while Washington farmers are watching markets for apples and cherries evaporate. Georgia's pecans, Texas cotton, and Montana lentils have also been struck by China's retaliation. By my assessment, the impact stretches across more than 24 states, each watching as their primary crops lose value and their farmers slide closer to bankruptcy. China has been aggressive in replacing American suppliers, and in August, the country imported a record 12.2 million metric tons of soybeans. Guess what? None of those shipments came from the United States, but instead, Brazil exported 17.7 million metric tons of soybeans to China in the first quarter alone, more than the entire U.S. contribution to the market earlier this year. This redirection of demand leaves U.S. silos overflowing and prices cratering. Many farmers are under extreme financial strain already, carrying debts from past years of volatility with no relief in sight. Economists now forecast that United States soybean exports may decline by as much as 500 million bushels in the 2025-2026 season, pushing carryover supplies to record highs. Sorghum exports have nearly disappeared. Alfalfa hay shipments have been gutted. Every sector is bleeding revenue. And in testimony, the American Soybean Association has already warned that farmers face a trade and financial precipice. Many simply cannot endure a prolonged standoff because their input costs are rising while their sales channels are collapsing. The damage extends well beyond farms. In 2023, every $1 billion in U.S. agricultural exports supported nearly 6,000 American jobs. Bulk exports of soybeans and corn alone supported more than 200,000 jobs in trucking, storage, processing, manufacturing, and shipping. And when exports collapse, so do the contracts that keep drivers on the roads, the paychecks that keep factories running, and the services that sustain rural towns. This is why economists call the situation a potential farm crisis on par with the worst of the 20th century. If bankruptcies mount, the damage will tear through the broader economy. Food is not only essential to life, but it is also the foundation of entire communities, industries, and livelihoods. What does this mean to us? For preppers, the lesson here is that the fragility in the system is everywhere. We produce an overabundance of what we can't and don't eat. Grocery store shelves may look full today, but the collapse of agricultural exports shows how quickly abundance can turn to scarcity. If farmers cannot sell their crops, they go out of business. And if trucking firms lose their loads, they shut down. If processors and manufacturers can't source raw material, they cut jobs. The result is not abundance at lower prices, but scarcity coupled with instability. We may soon enter a paradox where millions of tons of food are destroyed, yet consumers still face higher prices. Oversupply at the farm level does not guarantee cheaper goods at the store because markets can't redirect that surplus instantly. Instead, the disruption creates volatility and uncertainty, and those conditions drive higher costs and fewer options for everyday people. This moment also reveals how politics can disrupt daily life as effectively as droughts, floods, or wars. Trade policies and retaliation between nations are not distant matters for policymakers alone. They ripple down to the price of bread, the cost of meat, and the stability of household budgets. And for the average person, the takeaway is clear. A stock pantry, a small garden, or a local food network provides insulation from shocks that are outside of our control. We're now living in a time when disruptions are no longer rare. They're the new normal. Preparing while shelves are still stocked is the only way to stay ahead of the shortages and price spikes that follow when the world's food systems inevitably stumble. Giveaway. This week's winner is going to receive a food dehydrator. All you have to do to participate in the giveaway is just simply comment on the video, give it a thumbs up, and complete the form linked in the description and comment section below. Giving the video a thumbs up helps spread the prepping message even further. Also, you need to complete the form to be eligible, as that's how we'll randomly pick a winner and contact you. The information is only accessible to our team here at City Prepping. Using a random selection tool, we'll choose a winner from the entrance and reach out to you via the email that you provided on the submitted form. So congrats to our last giveaway winner for the 3-pack of rechargeable handheld lights, Robert Bullock. We'll reach out shortly to get that sent to you. I want to step away from the headlines for just a minute and talk to you directly. The air feels heavier lately, doesn't it? Every scroll brings another video of someone shouting, pushing, shooting. People who used to be neighbors in the broad sense now treating each other like enemies. And this week brought another high-profile killing tied to politics. Several weeks back, elected officials were attacked in their homes and assassinated in Minnesota. We're seeing school shootings again. It's a lot to take in, and if you've felt that knot in your chest, you're not alone. When I look at this, I'm tired of the rhetoric from people feeling like points were just scored for their side. And I think that's sickening. And while watching all this, I'm thinking about families, about yours and mine, about kids who just want to get through a typical school day, about spouses who want the person that they love to come home from work. And that's who I'm talking to right now. When I lived in Afghanistan in 2003, even after the Taliban was forced out, I saw the same things in people's homes. They just wanted to raise their family and live in peace. And people, a lot of times I'll get this question from friends and neighbors, where do you think this is all heading? And I'm typically pretty cautious about getting into predictions, but I'll tell you what the trend looks like. We're in a season where institutions that are shakier, trust is thinner, and tempers are shorter. Historians call it different things. Some talk about cycles, highs, awakenings, unravelings, and then a crisis period where the old ways strain and the new ones aren't fully formed yet. Whether or not you're buying that framework, it certainly feels like a storm system that has settled over the country. And here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to push the message on this platform of division. I'm tired of the messages of division that have become so prolific in our country. I'm not going to feed the outrage machine with another list of culprits to hate. Outrage and hate are hollowing us out as a nation. And when was the last time you heard a politician, a leader in this nation, say a kind word about the opposing side? We've become so entrenched in our hatred that we can't even hear what others are saying. Instead, I want to try to zoom in to the only circle that you can truly control, your household and the influence that you have on people on your street, and ask, what would it look like for you to be the calm center in a loud world? What would it look like for you to step off the roller coaster of constant reaction and actually build a plan that benefited your family step by step? What if you got out of the noise and the hate that we're all seeing online? That pot that's reaching a boiling point. Here's what that looks like in practical terms. De-escalation is a prep. Not everything deserves your horn, your opinion, or your energy. The gray man mindset isn't just about clothes, it's about posture. Blend in, save strength for what matters. And when it comes to situational awareness, that beats bravado. Know your exit, sit where you can see the door, have a family phrase that means time to go, and practice it until it's second nature. Layer your home with security with simple habits, good lighting, locked doors, a reinforced strike plate, and a small nightstand kit, something like a flashlight, a charged phone, and first aid basics. Prep for short disruptions. 2 weeks of food that you'll actually eat, water meds, pet supplies, and some cash. They all go a long way when roads close or cards go down. Build a local web. Know a few neighbors by name and number. Trade a favor before you need one. And when things get messy, people nearby, they matter more than strangers online. Medical is non-negotiable. Take a Stop the Bleed class and keep a small trauma kit in your home and car. And none of this is really complicated. None of it requires you to agree with your neighbor's yard sign. It's fundamental self-reliance in an age that's forgotten how valuable that is. And here's something else I've noticed. When you become more prepared, you become less reactive. When you're less reactive, you're more likely to really not be baited by the provocations that are everywhere. Preparedness, it really lowers the temperature. Now, I want to speak to the part of you that may feel discouraged. And again, with everything happening, I have found myself over the last few days concerned. And it's normal to be upset with the state of our nation, the division and the hate. But don't confuse a loud era with a lost cause. Most people you're going to meet will still want the same things. Safety, dignity, a fair shake for their kids, a little bit of peace. In division, it thrives on distance, but proximity shrinks monsters back to human size. Shake a hand, learn a name, and wave first. Try to be proactively kind to others. I got a text from a couple of neighbors on Wednesday night, and they were pretty upset. They were hot, and we don't necessarily agree on everything, but I do trust them. I respect them, and they reciprocate it back to me. A gentle word, it can turn away wrath. If we're in a crisis season, that implies something important. The season turns. Crisis periods, they have a purpose. They'll often expose what's rotten and force choices about what comes next. And if that's true, then the way you live at the household level, calm, prepared, generous, steady, doesn't just get you through. It quietly models the kind of culture that you're going to want on the other side. I don't control DC. I don't control your state house. I don't control the algorithm, but I do control whether there are beans and rice in my pantry, water in my containers, a flashlight where I can find it, neighbors who know they can call me, and a family that has practiced what to do when things are weird. And that's the lane I'm staying in, and I'm inviting you to join me. If you're brand new to all this, my encouragement is to start small. One shelf in the pantry, one neighbor's name and number, one set of batteries, one weekend afternoon in the yard fixing the gate latch, and you'll feel the anxiety shift into agency, one simple, repeatable step at a time. You're not powerless, and you're not too late, you're not alone, and the loudest voices want you to be angry or afraid. We're not choosing a different path here. We prepare, we practice, and we show up for our family and for our neighbors. We do the ordinary things, buying a little extra rice, topping off water, learning a new skill that quietly changes our trajectory. If the world is shouting, pick a side, pick your side. The side that keeps your family warm, fed, and accounted for. The side that keeps you calm in a checkout line when the card machines go down. The side that knows which exit to take without panicking. The side that waves to the neighbor and means it. That kind of strength doesn't trend, but it endures. You don't have to solve the nation tonight. You just have to take the next small concrete step. Add 2 gallons of water, write down a phone list, test a flashlight, text a neighbor. Stack those steps over a month and you're going to feel the ground under your feet again. And that's how we push back against the chaos. Not with slogans, but with quiet confidence. We can't control the storm clouds on the horizon, but we can shore up our roof, check our radios, and make sure that the people that we love know the plan. That's what community is all about. So keep your head, keep your heart, and keep building. Before I close, let me just remind you of the free live stream this Monday, September the 15th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up and reserve your spot through the link in the comments and description section below, or by joining directly at cityprepping.com/workshop. Over 1,000 people have already reserved their spots, and in that live stream, I'm going to tell you 3 critical things that you can start implementing right away to turn anxiety about our future into action to survive and persevere through these uncertain times. I hope to see you there. If you want more on my take on how close we might be to a civil war, check out my movie review of the Civil War movie that came out last year. And if you want to understand my sincere passion for getting people prepared and see the journey that I've been on, watch this video also here on the side of the screen. I filmed that video when I still had hair. You could say that I've been passionate about helping people for a long time, and I hope you'll join me on this endeavor. As always, stay safe out there.